Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video we're looking at Sweatcoin. Now in my previous video with Sweatcoin we compared this descending wedge, this pinch that Sweatcoin experienced back in October, November, and compared it what we were currently going through at the time back in late December, early January. And we basically came to the conclusion that we will most likely see an explosive move, and while there's no real point going back to see why I said those reasons, it basically boiled down that we were once again coming to this support line, and each time we'd hit this support line we'd either had very strong moves up in the following days, or, well, we don't really have an example of anything else. And for me that basically led me to say that so far we've been going up and up. Is it a matter of it's been going up for too long and Sweatcoin needs a pullback, or is it a matter of continuing the trend? And we spoke about the current macro environment and how I think the crypto space generally was due a pullback, especially with the crazy rallies Solana and other altcoins were putting in like Avalanche, and lo and behold we did get a bit of a pullback. I did say it was possible, but what I didn't expect was for Sweatcoin to break very far below this trend that we saw here, which we basically put in during 2023, late 2022, and that's kind of the range where Sweatcoin oscillated for most of its sort of inception. It's where it found a bit of a stable range, if you will, not before then dropping like the rest of the crypto market did during these few months during 2023. So we have now put in a much lower support, which we visited a few times on the way up. Again, Sweatcoin is roughly at its price where it was back in November, so it's still performing very well. However, we can see that there's obviously a lot going on, a battle going on between the bull and the bears here, with the extreme volatility that we're seeing in the coin. I mean, over the space of a day, Sweatcoin went from 0.09 of a dollar all the way up to $0.13. $0.013. Excuse me. So a cent and a third, basically, which equated to a 42% move in one day, which again is mental, really. Now, there's a lot of ways that this can currently go. And again, Sweatcoin has not always listened to what the general market does. I mean, Sweatcoin started pumping much earlier than the rest of the crypto space, back when it was half a cent, back in June 2023. Sweatcoin just rallied for the rest of the year, basically, up until this year, January, where it really saw a bit of a pullback and a correction, doing way better than a lot of the crypto space for a much longer period of time. And now that we've seen this pullback, it is a little bit worrying, because obviously if it was this bullish for such a long period of time, something significant or serious has to be going on for it to break out of its trend. And to be honest with you, it looks like it's not going back into those trend lines. It looks like it's unable. It's tried a couple of times. We can see these wicks here. This strong move actually got into the support, got above the supports at one stage, but obviously didn't last very long at all, and we had another pullback. And we can now maybe define another range from here. Again, excuse the color green, but it does just show the new trend that we could be in, of a more sideways, potentially downward move that Sweatcoin could follow over the next few weeks. There's a lot of ways you can draw this. Like, I mean, if you want to have something like this, to show that Sweatcoin is now in a downward movement, or again just the horizontal, or you could maybe say that now it's been reversed and we're back into a bullish trend with these highs going up. Again, it's like it's just a period of time where the coin is so volatile, it can go either way. I personally, during times like this, would default to looking at what the general crypto space is doing. And while today is a green day across the board, more or less, I do ultimately believe that within the next few months we will have a serious pullback. Whether that's just before the halving, whether it's just afterwards. Again, historically, a lot of altcoins do have a pullback around the halving time. Not just on their US dollar pairs either, but also on their Bitcoin pairs. Usually on their Bitcoin pairs, they have the pullback after a serious rally though, and that's usually after the halving. But basically, that's what I believe. So again, I'm gonna try to keep this as unbiased as possible, but I do think it will lead that way. Even just looking extremely closely at what we've seen over the last week, Sweatcoin has had a crazy move to the upside, and then ever since then, it's been faded. We've been moving down, and this could potentially set a trend. Again, these time frames are too small, and already these lines are all over the place and too ugly to look at, and they're all the same color because I can't be bothered changing them. So it's already way too confusing. Me personally, best case scenario for Sweatcoin, the crypto space continues to play out well for for the next few months, Bitcoin sees another higher high and slowly climbs and climbs and climbs. And Sweatcoin isn't left behind, it's slowly dragged up with it, or it trades sideways. Again, this range we sort of talk about setting a low, setting a high, and then revisiting these lows and highs. That is what Sweatcoin has done so far. But again, this is a very small time frame. It's a month. And while Sweatcoin hasn't been a while for a long time, so we have to make do with the data we have, and we've called trends from much smaller time frames and got them right. I mean, I launched my channel around this time and I made a Sweatcoin video sometime a couple of months afterwards, and I basically said that Sweatcoin is in an upward trend that is going against the rest of the crypto market. So if there's no reason for it to be held back when the rest of the crypto market is doing poorly, it will most likely continue trending up because, again, it's a small cap alt and they often do what they want. So to be honest with you, I think we can get rid of these blue lines. They're kind of just in the way, not really holding too much weight. To take a more bullish short-term view, again, Sweatcoin has been rallying, has been putting in these crazy rallies, and even though they get faded, and they keep coming back to this support, which is holding, which is a good sign. And we've even had wicks below that it bounces off, which is a good sign. You know, a good sign that the support is acting as a strong support. If we take a look at the bull market support band on Sweatcoin, we can still see that we are above, and we can see that we have sort of bounced off it and broken below it a few times during these last weeks, but still hasn't had more than a few weeks of close. If we do swap it to the weekly, I don't know if we'll have much data for this, but we can see we haven't had a weekly close below the bull market support band, and it does seem to have held once we met the bull market support band. Again, we rallied up below, broke clearly above, retested, broke clearly above, and then kept getting very close, basically retesting the bull market support band until we had a very strong lead above it on the weekly, and then we had a retest. And so far we have bounced. So again, this does indicate a bullish sentiment on Sweatcoin, and it could play out right. Again, it kind of depends where you think the whole crypto space will go. And I know that contradicts what I said with Sweatcoin doing its own thing for these first 3 months or so, 4 months. But again, this is a very young coin that's been acting strangely. So in a way, it is very much a shot in the dark, really. It can go either way. Again, what you're looking for here is basically if you have a close, like we did see here, or at least we had an open below the bull market support band, and we don't close above the bull market support band, I would be worried about Sweatcoin. And even if it is a fake out, I would expect us to go low. Again, if we have a weekly that closes close to this support here, that would indicate quite poor price action for the future, potentially. And if you want to draw a line here on the weekly, might look a bit better. We can see that we're maybe potentially on our way down. Again, we don't have much time. Swapping to the Bitcoin pair, where again, we have very little data, only one exchange offering a Bitcoin pair for Sweatcoin, and it is not very actively traded. It's currently sitting at 25 Satoshis per Sweatcoin. And you can see that we have this support, this range that again comes from an earlier time frame from Sweatcoin, but we had this harsh sell-off much later on in the Sweatcoin pair. Again, it kind of comes down to how high we were above our lows. We've put in a V shape here, and instead of continuing to climb, however, like this support indicates, we actually collapsed below. And I did say that when we saw this, again, I made a video in October and November and early December, I think it was. I basically said that when we saw the collapse below here, the pullback below, and we started operating within this new range, I said this could be foreshadowing what we see on the US dollar pair. And again, that's why I also want to tend to lead a little bit to it trading sideways on its US dollar pair, because that's what it has been doing on its Bitcoin pair for a very long time now, but ultimately showing more signs of weakness than strength, as we have very recently dipped below this support and only very recently come back above, only to then have another couple of days close below this line. Ultimately, what happens today will probably dictate where it ends up going in terms of the next few weeks. If we close at 25 Satoshis, or 26 Satoshis, sorry, where the support is, there's probably a good likelihood that we'll climb back above. However long we stay up there, I have no way of knowing. If, however, we have a close at 25 Satoshis or 24 Satoshis, there's a very likely chance that we see another slow sell-off like this and potentially another retest. And at that point, we'd have to reevaluate some trends and maybe see where it's going, because already I can maybe see some sort of a pattern like this playing out, you know, a slow downward trend from our highs and even potentially from our lows. Again, that's a bit rough and ready, and I'd have to check the prior supports, but Sweat could be moving in this way, and I might leave these lines here or adjust them after the video and see how they hold up for when we come back to Sweat in a few weeks. Really not too much to say about Sweatcoin, where I think it can go on its Bitcoin pair. Again, leading up to the halving, I probably expect weakness from Sweatcoin, but to be honest, I don't think there's very much lower it can go. Its all-time low on its Bitcoin pair is 15 sats, and I don't think we'll revisit that. We could come close, we could come down to 20 sats. I definitely think that's possible. We have done in the last few weeks. Maybe we could dip slightly below. We even went down to 19. So potentially we could see 17, 18, possibly 16. Very hard to say if we continue this downward trend that could be starting to play out. We could see worse price action. However, after the halving, I think that a lot of these alts will have a sudden revival against their Bitcoin pair. Which will sort of save Sweatcoin from potentially losing a lot more value against Bitcoin on the US dollar pair, where I think Sweatcoin could go at its current price of about 1 cent into the halving. I would probably actually put it for about 1 cent, to be honest with you, if I had to really just eyeballing it, because I see a bit of a correction maybe coming in for Sweatcoin, and then maybe a bit of a lower high afterwards. And that lower high somewhat correlating to around a time close to the halving, and that could possibly be about 1 cent, but again, I'm not sure. For me, I think it will do good in the bull run. I think this price movement here shows that just for the last 7 months, Sweatcoin went on a rampage, and even though it had a very sharp decline sell-off leading up to this point, this was during the bear market, and it was a newly launched coin, and again with a very low market cap, and in a competing space where there's stuff like Steppen and all those other walk to earn coins. I do think it is probably the most polished of all of them in that category though. Again, we'll see how it goes. The fact that it has a game as well, however basic that game may be, does potentially lead it to gain some attention from the GameFi space that seems to be leading the narrative, or is the leading narrative for the upcoming crypto bull run. Again, we'll see, but for now we just have to wait. Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment down below what you think. Is Sweatcoin going up or down, and is it a good hold currently? Also consider subscribing to the channel. It's been amazing. Last few days we've gotten like 15 subscribers, so thank you so much for showing the support and helping me get to this 1,000 number. We're 14 subscribers away as of this moment, which is mind-boggling to me, and at this rate we'll be well above it in a week or two. So thank you so much again for showing up time after time and watching my videos. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Take care and peace.